everyone, and welcome back to our world building podcast. I'm here with Isaac, the provider of the themes, and my name's Cassie, which I don't think I've ever said my name out loud in the podcast, realized that, but my name's Cassie. I am the doer of everything else involved in the podcast.
I'm just an idea machine that spits out a bunch of fortune cookie tags.
Well, you do more than that for me, but that's okay. If you want to be the fortune cookie tag guy, go for it. Anyways, Isaac does have a theme for this episode, so without further ado, he should go ahead and share what that idea is with us.
So I was thinking about how the previous episodes we were doing these very otherworldly world building where it was something totally different that wasn't even on a spherical planet. We were doing things that aren't really the normal kind of fantasy world sort of thing that you would think of, like something along the lines of Tolkien or C.S. Lewis.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking, what if we were to try and do a world like that? Because one of the ideas I came up with that I have not ever seen done before is taking elves, which are known to be very one with nature kind of creatures in a lot of stories.
Unless it's the Christmas elves. I'm assuming this isn't the Christmas elves.
Yeah, I'm not talking about Santa's elves.
Okay, I will dismiss them then.
Something more along the lines of Tolkien's elves or Dragon Prince elves.
Okay, yeah.
Which those are not the same thing, but still.
Yeah. No, I understand the vibe you're going for.
Anyway, so I was thinking, what if you were to take these very one with nature creatures, and then give them Kieran to ride? Which, if you don't know what a Kieran is, it's a mythical creature that is very one with nature. It's You're gonna have to describe this because I have no clue what this is. Okay, so I'm gonna try my best to describe it.
I believe in you.
It's a four-legged, hoofed creature with scales on its back. Right. A mane. A single horn, sometimes two horns. It depends on who's drawing it.
Okay, I'm picturing so far.
It's got kind of a fluffy tail.
Oh, right.
And sometimes it's got more of what looks like an elephant or giraffe's tail, depending on who's drawing
Those are very different tails.
It really depends on who's drawing it.
Okay, I think people get the general idea of it.
Look up a picture of a Kieran.
Yeah, just look it up. You guys can do it. Yeah, everyone go look up what this thing is. I'm not going to because I'm lazy, but you guys can feel free to go look up what this thing is. I have a basic idea. Sounds like a scaly horse.
People actually used to think that giraffes were Kieran because they fit the title.
Oh, that I understand. Like how that association could be made.
They don't look like the actual drawings of Kieran, but they have all the same features.
Yeah, I understand your description. Kind of, well, the scales was probably referenced to giraffe spots, but that's not what this podcast is about.
Anyway, I won't give you a history lesson on the Kieran, but I will say that it is hilarious and involves the kidnapping of giraffes.
Wonderful.
Anyway, Kieran are supposed to be very one with nature creatures.
Got it.
And so what I was thinking is, I just had a random idea, what if you were to take elves and have them ride Kieran?
Okay. So we have elves with the giraffe horses things, scaly horses.
Yeah, it's basically their versions of horses.
Oh, so we've given elves horses. I'm assuming these things don't have wings. They're grounded.
They do not.
All right. So I'm trying to think where we can go with this.
I don't know. I was just thinking it's just a creature that they could ride. As for what kind of abilities they might have in this world, the first thing that comes to mind is obviously they live in the forest, because where else do elves and Kieran live other than forests?
Okay, I think the first thing we need to define is what type of elves we've got in this world. That's step one here. So
tree hugger kind.
Okay, the tree hugger type. I think everyone can understand what type is. Like, probably not dirads.
I don't know.
How do you pronounce it? How do you pronounce them? Dirads? I don't know how to pronounce it. I could kind of see how to spell it. Dyrid. Dirads?
I don't know. I just know different
They are
types
literal
of
tree people. Like, they turn into trees. And then they can turn into human forms.
I've never heard of those before. I know
and if you
like,
cut down like
the Santa's elves, and
they're in Narnia. The Dirads are in Narnia.
They are?
Yeah, they're the tree people. The trees, when they fall asleep, it's them. They're not shown very well in the movies.
I remember now.
They're not shown very well, like represented very well in the movies, but they're.
Yes, I remember now.
They're more people like in the books.
I've read those books or seen the movies.
Yeah. So Dirads. I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing that wrong, but that's the only way I can think to pronounce it at the moment. So, are we thinking like that type of level? Because some people consider them an elf type. They're considered an elf creature, if not exactly elves. Or are we separating them from not that tree hugger?
I mean, I was thinking that we would try and create something more unique that hasn't been done before, but is still.
We can create our own elves.
Similar. Yeah, that's why I was thinking about the whole them riding the Kieran thing, because that's a thing that hasn't been done before, and they're both known as creatures that are very in touch with nature.
I mean, I kind of like the idea of having an elves that are like bonded to a tree. I just think that's a interesting idea.
What if the elves, when they are born, there is also a tree planted, or maybe for every tree that's planted, in maybe like within the forest, an elf is born, so their lives are linked to this tree. And
yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, and if the tree dies, the elf dies.
And if the elf dies, so does the tree.
So you gotta be very careful when you're lighting fires.
Yeah, fire is scary in this world.
And because these elves are, like, one with nature, as they are partially tree, or they're linked to trees, they have a deep respect for all of nature.
It could be fun if that's, like, they can communicate with them. Yeah, everyone, they can communicate with each other, like, no matter where they are because of it. Because you know how some scientists believe that trees can talk to each other? So there's,
yes, and they have a linked root system.
Yeah, so some trees will change their growth pattern to help a younger tree grow. So trees will communicate in the way that they will move branches and like grow a certain direction because they can sense a younger tree underneath them and they want that tree to be able to have light and grow. So they'll adjust, which is so cool and crazy. So the idea that like these elves can communicate with each other constantly because their trees are always linked. And therefore they are always linked.
They might have like a telepathic link to each other.
Yeah, but I'm thinking like this link is like they can go as far as they want. Like you can walk as far as you want and it's still there.
Yeah.
Like you could planet hop and still have this link.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I think that's what. Especially you now have these characters that they have a we identity more than a I identity, because they're all with like one subconscious. So it's the idea of trying to create a separate conscious when you have all the consciences like on you. Which, you know, people have dived into, but I don't think they've done it in... They always, like, talk about it, but those characters are always side characters or side aliens. They're never, like, the main character. You never have a main character with this we in their head.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think it'd be an interesting character. And then...
Sometimes you see side characters, and you think to myself, oh my gosh, they're so interesting. Why aren't they the main character?
Well, do you want to try to write about a person who constantly has everyone else's voices in their head?
I mean, it might make for a really interesting story, but I don't necessarily have a desire to write it, because I have
either, to be honest.
Other things that I'd rather write.
Okay, so we've created our elves. They are linked to trees, and therefore linked to each other. So now we have...
Kieran.
Yeah, so maybe we should talk about their relationship to the Kieran now. Like, how they tame them? Is this, like, their main thing of society? Does the Kieran, like, provide them anything other than transport? Can you milk a Kieran?
Maybe magic, because Kieran.
Can you? Can you milk one?
What?
Can you milk a Kieran? This is a genuine question. Can you milk it?
I don't know.
I want to be able to milk a Kieran.
I've never heard of anyone doing that.
But I mean, you'd have. They're mammals, aren't they? They sound like mammals.
I guess they're scaly, furry.
Do they have live births?
What?
Do they have live births?
I guess so. They're in a forest.
Okay, and which kid? Well, I mean, like, do they lay eggs versus having live kids?
I've never heard of Kieran laying eggs, but that is something that we could put in there just to make it more unique.
Well, no, they'd have to give live births if you want them to have milk. If we want to milk them.
So,
I want to milk them. So it sounds so wrong. I don't mean it to sound wrong. I think it'd be cool that their milk like has magical properties. That's how they get the magic from them. Because you were talking about maybe having the Kieran give the magic. Milking them and drinking the milk. Yes! This is a world of magic milk.
What would happen if you were to give that to a baby?
I have zero clue, but I'm assuming they would.
Turn into like Superman or Super Baby.
Well, that's what these elves are. They've been drinking this milk since like birth. They live off the milk of the Kieran, so they're very important to them because they live off the milk, and the milk has magical properties. Which I guess a good way to try to define what it does is think about what would the milk do to us if we drank it.
I imagine I'd start glowing and then feel sick to my stomach, but then get super strong.
Okay, so it gives these elves. So you can tell when an elf has just drank it because they glow, which I guess could be a disadvantage of it, is if you're like trying to power up but you're hiding from someone, it's hard to drink it.
Yeah, stealth is not an option with magic milk.
Okay, so how long do the effects last then? So we're assuming some of it might be a bit.
Strength is really a good one to give them because strength is just such a basic ability that's
no, they need something really cool they can do. Something.
Maybe it gives them control. Oh, maybe it gives them control over nature and plants and stuff to like make them grow faster or control them like all those many times that you see people fight with vines.
See, that was the first thing I was thinking of is like vines.
This could be something that the Kieran do naturally, but by drinking the milk, the elves take this ability and they're now able to use it.
These elves need a name, like the species of elf.
I would have thought we'd just call them elves unless we're putting more versions of elves in the same world.
I don't know. I don't think we are, but I don't know. I'm trying to think like.
We could give them our own type of elf because we are creating a unique elf. So I guess we call them.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I don't know what.
Forest elves. I'm so creative.
Forest. Oh my gosh. I'd hope words. I'm looking up on Google other words for forest.
Nature, forest, woodland,
plantation. Ooh, the Greenwood elves.
Ooh, I like that Greenwood
one.
Elves.
They should be called the Greenwood Elves.
Yes.
Greenwood. Okay, we've got the Greenwood Elves. Awesome. So the Greenwood Elves with their magic milk, which gives them the ability to control. There should be one thing: they cannot control trees with this, because they are trees.
Yeah.
You can't control someone else's tree. That feels wrong, especially with their. All their oneness, I should say.
Yeah, the tree turns into a voodoo doll.
Oh, that's an interesting idea. That like, if the tree gets hurt, they feel it, or if they feel it, like the marking. If they get hurt, the marking shows up on the tree.
Yeah, I'm down with that.
Yeah, because then like the trees can have scars that represent. So maybe the milk doesn't let their own physical bodies have scars, but the tree has the scars for them. So when like they're telling their stories, they would gather around the person's tree, and the person would like point out scars on the tree and share it. And that just feels like a very like traditional oral story. I mean, I know that they can read each other's thoughts and stuff, but I like the idea that they still have this oral communication.
Yeah, how weird would it be if someone were to start climbing this tree?
What would that feel like?
If somebody is climbing the tree, does it feel like a bug crawling
Well,
around the
I'm
body
assuming
that
they'd
they
have,
can't
like,
squat.
animals on the tree. Like, animals still have to live in trees.
That's true.
And that means they'll
Uh,
be gnawing at the tree and stuff. We
so you
need to
just
think
wake
of
up and you
that.
got this blood trickling down your cheek. It's like, oh, it's okay, honey. It's just a squirrel.
You should just, like, put squirrels on power... The annoyance of a squirrel on a power line to a whole new level. Got a
Yeah.
squirrel on my tree. I feel like that we need a way to protect against that. Against, like, squirrels and, like, other animals hurting the elves for living on the
Maybe,
trees.
maybe because they are so in touch with nature, they have this understanding with the animals.
So
Not
they
just
accept
Kieran,
the
but, like
pain?
animals in general, and like they can maybe communicate with animals in a way, or at least on some level, and
I mean, I kind of like the idea that these elves, these Greenwood elves, would be willing to accept the pain to house animals. Like they're just
or
that
that
type
I
of
like
elves. So like, but like, yeah, I like the idea they can communicate with the animals, and the animals kind of ask them permission, and like it's a great honor to have a scar, physically, like to experience the pain, so an animal can build a nest in your tree.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've all built our elves and Kieran and the sports.
Yeah.
So maybe we should move on to another species because we've been talking about this one little bit for about 20 minutes.
Yeah. Okay, so other things that are living here. We've kind of established we got the normal woodland creatures. We've got deer and squirrels and birds and stuff because they have that relationship. Now, I think the time comes where we have a slightly darker creature we need to create.
Okay, so the more evil.
Well, I don't know. I
creature.
feel like going a bit more complex because fantasy worlds you always have like the dark and the good and the evil. I feel like we shouldn't go too far evil.
So maybe more of like a natural evil, not necessarily evil, but like
balanced
a natural
evil, if that
predator.
makes sense.
Maybe more like a predator, like a hawk is to a squirrel. It's not that the hawk is evil. The hawk is just out for lunch.
Yeah. So would this be something that
A
would
natural danger.
Yeah, would this be something that would attack the Greenwood elves, or the trees, or the Kieran?
Maybe because like I guess my mind, the first place it went to was dragons, and like if a dragon were to attack the Greenwood elves, they
They're
would
dead.
all die immediately.
They're just done. They're done. They're finished.
Yeah, it's like fire plus trees.
I know, whenever I think of like a world like this, I feel like it's a subtle darkness, evil type thing. Like this isn't something that attacks in extremes. It takes and eats at you like a little bit at a time. Almost like tree root. I'm struggling with words today, guys. But like a sickness in the tree that they have to deal with almost. Could be an interesting concept.
So more like some kind of blight?
Yeah, we're kind of balancing on like plague, but I don't know, trees get sick. They get diseases like humans do.
Yeah, I suppose so. But don't we mainly want to world build other creatures and locations and stuff rather than focusing on just the forest?
True. So what's beyond the forest then?
I was thinking like because dragons are on my mind, I was thinking like a mountainous area where dwarves live. But what if dwarves were friends with dragons? They lived with dragons.
Oh,
They're both like mountainy creatures.
Yeah, and they always like are in conflict. But what if they weren't in conflict?
Yeah, they're always in conflict, but they live in the same kind of terrain.
Honestly, I like the idea that the dwarves, one of their favorite things to do is build houses for dragons. Like that's just they like carving out homes for them.
Yeah, that could be one of the things that they're doing is when they're carving out a hole in the ground for mining, they are simultaneously creating a home for a dragon. It's a win-win.
Yeah, and then they get to like decorate it for the dragon.
Yeah, and the dragons get a place to stay. They offer protection to the dwarves, and the dwarves get a bunch of the gems and coal and stuff.
Yeah, and this also makes sure that the dragons aren't gonna go attack our elves. because they're
maybe
not.
Maybe they're less offensive and more defensive.
Yeah, I think
Like,
they'd be very
they're not going to go and
defensive.
burn down the forest, but they will. But if the elves were to come and attack the dwarves for whatever reason, they're going to burn down that forest.
Yeah.
Or at least the elves that are nearby, rather than flying all the way to the forest.
Yeah, and that will keep peace at least in that aspect. So what prevents the dwarves from attacking? Like, what motivates the dwarves to stay put in their mountains?
They like their mountains.
Yeah, but people get greedy.
What do they have to gain from burning down a forest?
Wood. What are they doing for wood?
Well, they don't necessarily need to go out to this all the way to this magical forest. Just any nearby trees and a nearby.
I don't know.
Woods.
I feel like I'd always be paranoid that I'd be accidentally cutting down a living human.
When I'm thinking that in this specific area, it's like the enchanted forest. Maybe there's other magical plants and stuff that are actually growing, like glowing mushrooms, because that's original.
Yeah, glowing mushrooms are so original.
And maybe like that they release sparkling pollen. Maybe there's fairies that fly around in the enchanted forest. It's a very magical place, and so this way people know where the magic trees are, and they know to stay away from those trees.
I feel like the trees need to do something to people, like have an ability to protect themselves. I don't know what they could do.
Very thick bark.
Very thick. I don't know. I guess once one tree gets hurt, all the trees are alerted and all the elves are alerted, like instantaneously. Cause of mind link. So there is that, I guess. All right, so we've got dwarves living with the dragons, making dragons' homes. We've got the Greenland elves chilling with their magic milk. What? Are we gonna have like a ocean society? Gotta have a water society.
Yeah. What if we had it like either living underwater, on the water, or both?
Oh, that's an interesting idea. Having like a mermaid people that can transform to go on land at will, like they can do both.
Like, that's not something commonly done. Like there are stories like where like Little Mermaid, where a human can transform into a mermaid or vice versa.
But that's usually
not the one where it's like at will.
Like this is just their society. I guess like I can think of a few shows where they do it, but normally it's because the main character of the story is half mermaid and half human.
Yeah, that's usually how it works. Like the
H2O
show, Mako Mermaids or whatever.
Yeah, there's another one I can't remember the name of.
They touch water, they turn into mermaids.
Yeah, these people can they can touch water without turning.
Like you can go swimming as a human, or you can go swimming as a mermaid if you want.
You can take a shower.
Or you could be on land.
You can take a shower, guys. Because I feel like that was like one of the biggest issues. Is like they can't take showers anymore. Because every time they touch the water, they turn into a mermaid. These guys can take a shower without going mermaid, if they want to. So okay, so we do have to have something that kind of ties them back to the water, like where they can't travel far. I guess they get like dehydrated faster. Would be their thing.
Yeah, it's like they just like once they transform into humans, they are human, but they're subject, but they don't have very good sun resistance.
Yeah, they burn easily. They have to drink more water than we would, and yeah, it's not like the most like they prefer to be in the water, but like if they want to go on land and like race across the beach, have a human moment, they can't. Well, I guess it's not human. Are there humans in this world?
I don't know. I would assume so, because what fantasy world is complete without boring humans?
See, I kind of want this to be the one world where there are none.
Okay, well you can have a world where there's no humans. That could work.
I think it'll be fun just not to have humans.
Yeah, usually what happens in stories like these is we have humans for some level of familiarity, or it's like we can envision ourselves as humans or human-like creatures, like hobbits.
I feel like our world is like at a point in storytelling where we can relate to less human-like things. I feel like the thing we relate to is the subconscious, the ability to communicate, to think. That's what we relate to more than what we look like or what abilities we have. At least I hope we're getting closer to that. I'd like to
Yeah.
think that the world can handle a story without humans in it
Yeah.
and be okay.
You do not necessarily need humans.
I mean,
Like,
Onward has no
I'm writing a
humans, so
book
like the
that has,
Pixar movie Onward had no humans in it.
yeah, and like I'm right, it had human noise, which so do we.
Yeah. I feel like as long as they
I'm
can
writing a
communicate
book
to
that
us.
has no humans. And no
Elzagao Hole has no
creature.
humans. Like, I can think of a ton of stories that have no humans, and they're still good, and you can still relate to them. Because I feel like people need to get out of their head that the thing people like about stories is the human aspect. It's not. It's the communication aspect we like about it. It's the fact that we can portray thought, and I've read stories where there's nothing living in it. There's nothing talking. It's just descriptions of things, and I could still connect to it. Because it's just because something is being communicated to me. That's the part we connect with, is communication, more than anything else, really.
Okay, yeah. Communication is a good way of like connecting. It's just a human aspect, which when I say human aspect, I'm not referring to specifically something that is human, something that has human traits such as emotions, feelings, like compassion
Language.
or curiosity. Yeah, language.
Anger,
Those
hatred.
are
There's the
like,
negative
human
things,
aspects,
too.
which are things that dwarves and elves can have.
And our armor, whatever. I don't know what to call them. I kind of like.
People.
Can we have them just turn full fish instead of being like half?
I guess so.
Would that be interesting? Is that they just go for?
Maybe.
Because now
I mean,
this
I've
is
never-
you kind of have a
I think
world
it's
where you don't
harder
eat
for them
fish.
to build underwater if they had no opposable thumbs.
Well, I feel
underwater.
like they can breathe underwater in their human-like form. But
Yeah,
instead
if
of
they're
getting a
in human
tail, they
form
get a
underwater,
fish.
You gotta hold your breath.
No, they can breathe underwater and like their human form has gills, so like they can still breathe. It's just if they want to swim fast, they turn full fish.
Okay, so they're not quite human. They're more, I can't think of what it's called.
I don't know.
Human fish creatures that aren't mer people.
Yeah, they're not
They
cool.
got gills and fins and they're
Well,
hideous creatures.
I would say they have fins, maybe. Like, if they want to swim fast in their world, they turn into fish. Fully fish.
Creature from the Blue Lagoon.
Oh, goodness, no, we're not going there. I'm trying to avoid that part. I'm trying to keep you from going for that. But these are just, they look very human-like, but they can breathe underwater. But if they want to swim fast underwater, they turn into fish. But if they want to build or, like, just swim about, they're in full human form. They're not the most...
What kind of fish?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know. It's got to be a type of fish that's easily distinguished, so that way other creatures don't eat them.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, well, to keep other creatures from eating them, they would have to be very large fish.
I mean, not necessarily. I just feel like they have to have a distinct feature that means other creatures who are aware that they exist wouldn't eat them. I mean, at the same time, if they get hunted, they're gonna turn just into a human and be like, chill.
I'm just thinking about other fish trying to eat these fish.
Oh. No, yeah, you're right about that. I mean, they could be shark people instead. Oh, that could be natural danger. A reason why they stay in the human form a bit more often than fish form.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking they were...
If they want to get from point A to point B faster, they turn into full fish.
Yeah, and they take the risk.
If they see danger, they turn into humanoid fish.
Or, yeah, where they can breathe underwater, but they look more human than anything else. So
What kind of weapons would these people have? Not tridents.
Well, they can't really do weapon very well in fish form, unless, like, anything they're wearing and holding, I guess, transforms with them. Which means they could do, like, whatever the heck they want.
Yeah, if they can transform, what kinds of weapons would they carry? Because I could see it being kind of hard to carry a weapon if you're a fish.
So I feel like these people almost, they don't do clothes, but they're covered in scales or something in their human form. Just because then they can transform. Because I feel like when you transform, you lose whatever you're wearing or dropping or holding. So they're not...
Their fins are almost like blades, like they're very thin and sharp, and so they can be used as weapons if they were to just like slash at something.
That could be fun in their fish form. Their fish.
I was thinking maybe in their human form they have like a webbing between their fingers, and maybe along that webbing there's blades. I don't know.
Ooh, that's an interesting idea. So, like, their human form, they're very scaly. They've got sharp web blades that I guess helps them swim at least a bit faster, though not the fastest. And then when they're in fish form, those big blades, I guess, like, because they shrink, the blades condense into, like, a sharper, more deadly. So they're almost more deadly in their fish form.
Yeah, I mean...
Because imagine a
like
little fish
blade,
darting about you with
sharp.
a blade. You can't catch it. If they're extremely fast in this form, like, that's the big advantage, is that, like, they almost have super speed with this form. They are a fast fish. And they've got blades attached, and they're charging at you, and they're really small and really fast and hard to hit, and they're just slicing you to bits. I would be terrified of these things.
Yeah, these guys, it's like, imagine if you were, like, in a ship or a rowboat or something, and these things start slashing at the bottom and slice a hole in it.
Yeah, no, these things are not fun. These guys are scary.
They're deadly.
Yeah, I don't think we have to worry about anyone hunting them. I think they're fine.
Yeah. They would definitely do pretty well in surviving.
Right.
And I imagine a lot of bigger fish would leave them alone because they know they're aware of the danger.
Yeah.
And what kind of weapons would the dwarves and elves have? I mean, the dwarves already have dragons.
Yeah, I feel like the elves are just very peaceful. I don't feel like they believe much in weapons.
Maybe they would have, like, weapons.
Well, they have their magic power. They're fine. They've got their milk.
Magical vine abilities.
They've got their milk that lets them control plants. They're fine. We don't have to worry about
so
them.
they got that. It's like if you see somebody about to attack you, drink your milk, start glowing, and then have the grass grab them.
Yeah, they're fine. Everyone's got some pretty cool. So I feel like the theme of this podcast has turned into us, like, creating unique versions of the classic fairy tale like creatures. So I feel like we can't complete this without creating a new type of fairy. It's just not fair. We need a new fairy. Or, like, to store things so they can build out of this stuff. And I like the idea of we sticking with small fairies, because we don't have many small creatures in this like, small intelligent creatures in this planet that we've created. I'm assuming it's a separate world, because this is World Builders.
Oh yeah, this is not our world.
This is another world.
Running around.
Yeah. So I feel like these are small fairies that like glass for its magnifying properties, maybe?
Okay,
maybe...
But still, why would they build a city out of it? That's kind of hard. It's a hard material to work with. Like,
I mean, this is a new world. We can do whatever we want with this stuff. And maybe it's not glass. Maybe it's like gems. Or like a hard kind of glittery substance. That's...
Maybe they can naturally create glass. Like, that's... Maybe their wings are made of glass.
Oh, I love the idea of a fairy with glass wings.
Like, and at that point, it's like they've got to be very careful when they fly. If their wings hit something while they're flying, they may never fly again.
That's so sad. Like, we've now made, like, the weakest creatures. And... Alright, these guys got to be able to, like, mass produce, like, rabbits. They need something to keep the species alive, and I feel like being able to...
Maybe they can control glass, like, use their magic to form glass.
Yeah.
In whatever way they want. And so they can create buildings of glass. If they really want to, they could create foggy glass, I guess.
Yeah, for, like, colored glass, I feel like would be a big deal.
Stained glass, and they'd be, like, artists for glass.
Yeah.
And it's like,
also, these guys are pretty well defended, because if you've ever cut yourself... I've cut myself on glass before. It hurts. There's something about being cut by glass that hurts worse than being cut. Like, I've also cut myself on a butter knife. Or, like, and another sharp knife. I've cut myself on a lot of things accidentally. But I think, like, one of the worst things I've cut myself on is definitely glass. It hurts. Like, I don't know what about it, but it hurts extra bad.
They've all got a bunch of tiny glass swords.
Yeah, that sounds absolutely
Can you imagine these guys flying around with their glass swords, which, because of the way weight ratio to size and everything works, their swords would actually be much longer in comparison to their body than swords are to us.
Ooh.
Like to them, their swords would not be 2 or 3 feet in length or 4 feet in length. It would be closer to 8 feet in length.
Some big swords. Those are more like lances.
Them around, no problem. So imagine these things flying around you at high speed with these long glass blades, slashing and stabbing everywhere.
No.
Like, this is a lethal little person.
These are terrible. I like how we started off really peaceful. We're like the Greenland elves are very chill, living up in their one-minded world. We got the dwarves; they've got dragon friends. They're happy. And then we're like, oh yeah, the mer people have blades for hands, and the fairies can create glass, which they can. So I also feel like they could shoot glass at you. Like, they have the closest thing this world's gonna get to guns. And they're glass shards
glass
being shot at you.
From their hands.
Yeah, that sounds absolutely painful. I would avoid that at all costs.
Like, if you're going up against these fairies, you gotta go in full armor, and you don't want to be going in with a sword, because it'd be kind of hard to hit these guys with a sword. You would want a fan. A really big fan. If you can, like, either hit them with the fan to break their wings, or blow them into the ground or into a tree or some obstacle to break their wings, then you can defeat them, but a sword is not the way to go, and you need to be fully decked out in armor, or you're gonna die immediately.
I mean, with any of these people, I feel like you're at a lot of risk.
Or you could send a dragon in and you win.
Oh yeah, the dragon I think would do pretty well against the little fairy people.
Yeah, and if the fairies were to go against the water people, but they can't go underwater, I imagine. Maybe they've got some kind of a glass submarine they could make. I don't know.
I feel like they could get pretty advanced with their glass magic.
Yeah, I imagine they would. It's just everything would be so delicate and dangerous, but at the same time... But
then you could just remake it every time it breaks, so, there's that. Wouldn't that be nice? Every time your window breaks, you just, like, snap your fingers and the window strikes, and you're like, oh, no biggie, go back with it. Here's your baseball, I fixed it, no problem, you're fine.
So here's your glass baseball, now go hit it with your glass bat, and when you're...
I mean, I feel like not everything would be glass. Like, they're gonna use things from nature. They're gonna have wooden things and other things.
If they're playing baseball, they're gonna use stones as bases.
I just feel like that'd be absolutely... I don't think they'd be playing baseball. Because baseball in a glass city just screams, no, bad idea, don't do it.
Especially if somebody's wing gets hit. I don't imagine they'd be playing baseball at all.
I feel like their wings are the one thing they can't repair.
Yeah, I think that should be the case. Like, they either can't repair them, or it's very, very difficult and takes a very long time.
Yeah, I feel like, eventually they can repair their wing, but they're out of service for a while. That makes the most sense to me.
Maybe it heals over time.
But it's...
It's a biological thing for their bodies, whereas the glass that they are creating with magic...
I feel like another twist with it, if their wing's broken, not only do they, like, lose the ability to fly, they also can't do glass magic till it's healed. Like, it takes up all their magic to heal these wings. If you
manage to ground a fairy, they are completely defenseless.
Yes, but it takes a bit to ground them because they're fast and they're scary. But once you do it, you're good. Yeah. And it's not like they lose all the stuff they made their glass with. They still have that sword, so be careful. They're just grounded. Okay, so we've done elves, dwarves, fairies, mer people, dragons. What else have we got? We still haven't, like, created anything really evil or dark. I almost feel like this place needs, like, rulers. Like, it has...
Like, I was thinking, like, we would have, like, the fairy queen, the elven chief, the dwarf king, and the mer king, Poseidon.
Yeah. So, would we have, like, a central trading area? Like, is there a town where all these groups come together and trade and meet and discuss stuff?
Maybe, because maybe, like, all these kingdoms are, like, formed in a circle around a
central city
area where maybe people are living in peace, or maybe people are living on edge.
Maybe a mix. you know, they're in peace at the moment, but like one wrong move and
an all-out war.
so I feel like this town would be well ruled or like guided by a group that's like a leader from each people group, creature
Yeah, like a
group.
council of friendly magic creatures.
Yeah, you got one from each. Everyone's
The
represented.
Council of Friendship.
Oh my. Let's. Okay, we don't need to go that cheesy here. But I do feel like they have a council where it's one from each. And these aren't their absolute rulers. The absolute rulers stay in like their actual areas. These are the rulers' representatives.
Yeah,
so the ruler picks these people
to
to
they're more like
represent.
the ambassadors.
Yeah, they're ambassadors, yeah. And it's their job to make sure the city doesn't go, you know, no one's picking at shooting at fairies, and the water people aren't being denied water, which would be
nobody's
bad.
stealing magic milk.
Yeah, no one's stealing magic milk. What would happen, out of curiosity, I feel like the elves should be the only ones who can drink the milk. I feel like bad things happen when the others try to do it.
Yeah, and maybe that's one of the things, is they are keeping the milk to themselves because people keep on trying to take the milk, and every time somebody tries to take the milk, they hurt themselves or kill themselves.
Yeah, it just doesn't... And these are peaceful people. Like, if any of these groups are peaceful, it's these elves.
You turn into a tree if you drink the milk, or you turn into part tree, and the only reason the elves can drink the milk is because they're already linked to trees.
I like that. I like that idea so much. And that might make it like some people who want that. Like, there are people who want to become tree. I don't know why, but I'm sure there are people out there.
Why would you want to be a tree?
I feel like there are people... I feel like there are creatures out there that want it.
I don't understand. I don't want to go into the shoemaking business. I want to be a tree.
In which case, I guess the elves might be willing to sell that. Like, I imagine, like, the elves have property where they just allow the people to come and, like, they pick out their spots where they want to live the rest of their lives as a tree. I'd imagine, honestly, like, this is a different type of death. Like, you're old, you've lived your life, you're a fairy who's tired of regrowing wings, you're a mer person who's sick of swimming, you've lived your life, you're a dwarf who's built one too many dragon houses, you're ready to retire just in general, and these people, and you come to these elves, and they offer you a resting place, but instead of being buried or anything, they give you the milk and you become a tree.
Maybe, but what if it was like, if you fail to drink enough of the milk, or maybe it's just a random chance that this would happen, you don't fully become a tree, and instead you become this creature, almost like an ent, where it's like you're covered in bark, and maybe you got leaves sprouting out of your fingertips.
It would look different for each creature.
And move very well. So it's like something could go horribly wrong if you were to drink this milk, or something could go, or you could just become a full-on tree and basically die.
Maybe that's one of the things, like, I'm trying to think, I kind of like this idea. I also like the idea about the elves being a keeper of a graveyard, where it's just people's trees. But I do like the idea...
I like being a tree. I like to be a tree.
That was creepier than the idea of a tree graveyard. That was very disturbing. I don't even know how to process what you just did there, but okay. But I also like the idea that if people drink the milk, they become these like half tree, and I almost feel like those would be the dark creatures of the world. Like there's this
people who fail to become full tree.
Yeah, so it's like shameful almost. So once you die, you have everyone has, like, once you're a certain age, everyone's like required to drink this milk, okay? Just follow along with me. And two things can happen. You can either become a tree and then your life ends and you're celebrated and you've cycled back into the world in the form of a tree. Or you fail and you become this creature and then you're outcast from society. So now you just have these outcasted creatures that are half tree, half whatever creature they were beforehand, who can't go back to their society.
Maybe drinking the milk is like a purity test, almost.
Yeah.
Where it's like, if you turn into a full tree, people know you are a good person in your life. If you turn into this half-tree creature, people are like, oh, you are not pure of heart. You are a terrible person. You are now outcast.
Yeah, and then you have this darker society that might want to cause a bit of mischief that you kind of have to against. I mean, but they're also like, these are the elderly.
Yeah, and some people might not want to drink the milk because they know that they are terrible people, and so when it comes their time to drink the milk, you're like, here, have a glass, and they're like, no, thanks, I'm gonna run and hide.
Oh yeah, so now we've actually created like a story that people can go off of. We finally made it with 10 minutes left. We've made it to story.
Yeah, we have a story where the guy is like avoiding drinking the milk because something horrible could happen. We could have the uprising of the evil tree people. We could have the war between the different civilizations because a lot of them are somewhat on edge, somewhat allies because that central town, but they still live divided. You could have even just the smaller in this world story, where maybe a family of elves adopts a dwarf, or vice versa, or maybe that could be a little more like a subplot, is what that more feels like, showing that despite their different cultures and lives and everything.
I mean, you could even have just like a short story collection like called "The Tales from the Forest Graveyard" or something like that, where it's just every person comes, drinks the milk, and then they tell the story, and then you see which version they come, and then it kind of comes up a play of like what's actually good, what's actually evil, and you can do some serious mind trips to your reader with that in any way you want. Like, you can make...
It's definitely an interesting, very different fantasy world than I've seen created by other people. Like, this is like almost like a high fantasy sort of world.
Yeah, it definitely is.
I like Tolkien, but it's unique.
Yeah. It's got... which I think was like... I think that was the theme of this podcast. Our goal for this specific episode was to create a world which had the same classic fairy tale type creatures you see all the time, but we've modified them slightly, and then we've put them together, and now we've offered you a bunch of stories which you can work off of if you want to. Because I feel like we've forgotten to mention this, like we do not own these stories, we do not own these ideas, we have no plans to. You guys can take them and do what you want with them. Maybe link us or something, or give us a shout out in like the intro of the book that we helped inspire you or something like that. But you don't even have to do that. This is free property. Our ideas are free property for you guys to take and.
It's all public domain.
Yeah, it's public domain, not the podcast itself. Just the ideas from the podcast. This podcast is ours, but the ideas from it you can take.
Please don't claim this podcast as your own.
Yeah, don't do that. But yeah, but you can claim this world as your own if you want to, and have fun with it.
Yeah, and there are so many different stories you could pull out of this world, and there's so much more world building you could do. Like, this is the sort of setup where you can just keep building on this world. You can keep building the magic systems. You can keep building cultures and characters and species and. Like, because we didn't even get into cultures, what the dwarves are like, or what the well, we got a little bit of what the elves are like.
Yeah.
We don't know exactly what kind of society the fish people live in. What kind of buildings do they live in? What about this central area where all the different species come together? What's that like? There's so much more to explore in this.
We could do a part 2.
Yeah, I
kind of like we do a part 2 next week.
So much more to explore in this.
Join us next Sunday for part 2 of this. This is just part 1. This is officially part 1. Yeah, so next Sunday we'll dive into part 2. We'll talk about we'll dive more into probably culture. So this time we developed this basic species and the basic world idea, and next time we will dive into culture. But this is, in fact, all the time we have for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed this, And yeah.
I'm gonna be thinking about this for the next week. Like, this is all I'm gonna be thinking about.
Good.
This is really
You're the
exciting.
idea guy. You gotta come in with like a ton of ideas and for me to bounce off of and for us to have a good time world building. Anyways, that's all the time we've got for today. And yeah, we'll see you next Sunday when we build more of this world. Bye.
Goodbye.